Rome went from a village of huts to a superpower that shaped the next 2,000 years. It conquered the entire Mediterranean, then spent centuries slowly losing it again. And the empire, everyone says, fell in 476, actually survived another 1,000 years after that. This is the whole thing. Kings, generals, emperors collapse and come back, start to finish, in about 9 minutes. Rome's history splits into 3 parts that barely look like the same country. A kingdom, then a republic, then an empire. Each one ended because the version before it stopped working. It starts around 753 BC on a cluster of hills beside a river in central Italy. The legend says twin brothers, raised by a wolf, argued over where to build. Romulus won the argument, founded the city, and gave it his name. The archaeology is less dramatic. Small huts, farmers, and a very good river crossing. But that crossing mattered. It sat on the trade route between northern and southern Italy. For its first 2.5 centuries, Rome was ruled by kings. 7 of them, and the last 3 came from the Etruscans, a powerful civilization to the north. Then, in 509 BC, the last king was thrown out, and the Romans developed something close to an allergy to one-man rule. What replaced him was the Republic, built specifically to stop anyone getting too powerful. 2 consuls instead of 1 king. Each could block the other, and each served a single year. A senate of former officials advised them, and assemblies of citizens voted. It was not a democracy as we would recognize it. Wealth decided how much your vote counted. And for centuries, ordinary citizens fought the rich families for a real share of power. That worked because Rome was almost always at war. First with its neighbors in central Italy, then with everyone else on the peninsula. In 390 BC, a Gallic army wandered in and burned most of the city down. Rome rebuilt and spent the next century making sure that never happened again. By 270 BC, it controlled all of Italy south of the Po Valley, and its method was unusual. Beaten cities were not destroyed, they were absorbed. They became allies, supplied soldiers, and could eventually earn Roman citizenship. That is the real secret of Rome. It grew by turning its enemies into more Romans, which brought it up against the one power in the west that was bigger, Carthage, a trading empire in North Africa with the best navy in the Mediterranean. The first war between them lasted 23 years and was fought mostly at sea. Rome had no fleet, so it copied a captured Carthaginian ship, built 200 of them, and won on stubbornness alone. The second war is the famous one because of one man. In 218 BC, Hannibal marched an army from Spain over the Alps into Italy. With war elephants in winter, which everyone had assumed was impossible, he then defeated 3 Roman armies in 3 years. At Cannae, he surrounded and destroyed the largest force Rome had ever put in the field. Rome refused to surrender. It raised new armies and simply avoided fighting him directly. Rome invaded North Africa instead, and after 15 unbeaten years in Italy, Hannibal was called home. He lost at Zama in 202 BC, and Carthage was finished as a power. 50 years later, Rome came back and leveled the city completely. After that, nothing slowed Rome down. Greece, Spain, Asia Minor, and the coast of Africa, all inside a century. And the winning is what broke the Republic. Conquest made a handful of families extraordinarily rich and put enormous estates in their hands. Small farmers came home from long wars to find their land bought up beneath them. They drifted into the city, poor and unemployed, and became a political weapon. 2 brothers, the Gracchi, tried to redistribute land to them. Both were killed for it. Political violence had entered Roman politics, and it never really left. The army changed too. Generals recruited the landless and paid them out of their own pockets, which meant soldiers were now loyal to their commander rather than to the state. In 88 BC, a Roman general marched his own legions on Rome itself. And once that had happened once, it kept happening. Out of that chaos came a man who was better at all of it than anyone else. Julius Caesar conquered Gaul, roughly modern France, in 8 years. He came home enormously wealthy, enormously popular, and with an army that adored him. Ordered to disband it, he crossed the Rubicon into Italy in 49 BC instead. Civil war followed. Caesar won it and had himself made dictator for life. On the 15th of March, or 44 BC, a group of senators killed him in a meeting hall. They believed they were saving the Republic. They finished it off. 13 more years of civil war followed, and Caesar's adopted heir won every round. Octavian defeated Mark Antony and Cleopatra at Actium in 31 BC. Then he did something clever. He never called himself a king or a dictator. He kept the Senate, the elections, and the old titles, and quietly held all the actual power. The Senate gave him the name Augustus, and we call him the first emperor. He ruled for 41 years and left behind a system that could survive bad rulers, which was fortunate because several of the next ones were spectacularly bad. Nero lost the city to a fire, rebuilt it lavishly, and was declared an enemy of the state. When he died, 4 different men claimed the throne inside a single year, and the empire still held, because the machinery underneath had grown stronger than any one man. What followed was the high point, roughly a century known as the Roman Peace. Under Trajan, around 117 AD, the empire reached its greatest size, from Scotland to the Sahara, and from Portugal to the Persian Gulf. Somewhere around 60 to 70 million people, possibly a fifth of everyone alive, connected by 50,000 miles of paved road built for the army and used by everybody. Aqueducts carried fresh water into the cities. There were public baths, heated floors, and sewers. 1 currency, 1 legal system, and 2 languages that got you across 3 continents. If you were free and reasonably lucky, this was as good as the ancient world ever got. Enormous numbers of people were not free. The whole system rested on that. And this is the point where almost every summary skips straight to the fall. But Rome very nearly ended 2 centuries early and then saved itself. The strain began in the 160s, when returning armies brought a plague back with them. It may have killed 1/10 of the empire, and it returned in waves for years. Then, the 3rd century almost finished Rome off entirely. In 50 years, more than 20 men claimed the throne, and most were removed by their own troops. The currency collapsed. Trade broke down. Cities built walls for the first time in centuries. Enemies crossed the northern and eastern borders at the same moment, and then, remarkably, it was pulled back together. Diocletian decided the empire was simply too large for one man to defend, so he split the job in 2, east and west, with a junior emperor under each. It worked, and the line he drew never really closed again. Then, in 312 AD, Constantine won a civil war and changed the empire permanently. He legalized Christianity, a faith Rome had spent centuries trying to stamp out. Within a century, it went from illegal to the official religion of the state. He also built a new capital in the east, on the Bosphorus, and named it after himself, Constantinople, better defended, closer to the wealth, and far from the threatened western frontier. That single decision decided which half of the empire would survive, because the West was quietly running out of money and men. Groups pushed across the Rhine and the Danube, some of them fleeing the Huns behind them. In 410 AD, a Gothic army walked into Rome and stripped it for 3 days. The city was not even the capital anymore, but the shock traveled across the known world. Over the next 60 years, Western emperors became figureheads controlled by their own generals. In 476, a commander named Odoacer removed the last one and never replaced him. There was no final battle for civilization and barely even an announcement. He sent the imperial robes east to Constantinople and ruled Italy himself. And in the east, the Roman Empire simply carried on for another 1,000 years. They never stopped calling themselves Romans. We call them Byzantines, a name they never used. Justinian briefly took back Italy and North Africa in the 500s, but the gains did not last. It shrank, recovered, shrank again, and held Constantinople through siege after siege, until the 29th of May, 1453, when cannon finally broke the walls. The last emperor was last seen fighting in the breach somewhere and was never identified afterwards. From a village on a hill to that final morning is 2,200 years. And Rome never really disappeared. It just stopped being a country. Its law sits underneath most of Europe's legal systems. Its language became Italian, Spanish, French, Portuguese, and Romanian. Its alphabet is on this screen, and its calendar is on your wall. 2 Roman rulers put their names on July and August, and nobody has ever changed them back. Subscribe for more history, explained one stick figure at a time. See you next time.